Hey, it's Robert Clickybeard, the host of the Commercial Landscaper podcast. These podcasts challenge you to grow as a leader, to stretch yourself beyond your comfort zone, and to 10x your company. I really encourage you to enjoy the show, share it with teammates, fellow business owners, and subscribe. That helps us grow our community. This podcast is sponsored by BUM Data, helping commercial landscapers turn labor data into smarter decisions with intuitive, actionable analytics. Check them out if you're ready to control your labor costs and boost your margins. When you mention Wilson T60, you'll get 1 month free subscription to check out this amazing software. Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard with the Commercial Landscaper podcast. Really excited today to be joined by Brian DuMont. Nice to see you, Brian.
Great to see you too, Robert.
So, Brian, there's a lot of people talking about you in the industry. Well, tell people about Brian. How did you get into the industry? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, probably like a lot of people, I started really young. Started cutting grass when I was 13, 14 years old in the neighborhood, and I was getting ready to go off to college. And my dad said to me, "Hey, what do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "Dad, I'm going to go play ball. I wanted to play baseball." And he said, "No, what are you going to do?" And I said, "Dad, I'm going to play ball." And he turned around to me and said, "Hey, Brian, no offense, you're not Mickey Mantle. What are you going to do?" So I decided at that moment that I was going to get into landscape horticulture. So I went down to NC State, and I did that because I had a great relationship, still have a great relationship with my father. He started in the mailroom at IBM and worked his way up. By the time I was in high school, I really didn't get to see him much. He was installing SAP worldwide. So when it was time to select my major, I realized, man, I'm going to go back to some memories I have with my father, and that was in the landscape industry. So that's how I got into landscaping. And then right before I'm getting ready to graduate college at NC State, I was working for a gentleman doing high-end design build, oceanfront homes in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I had that experience that nobody really wants to have. I had that experience of where I worked for a boss that he'd come to us after meeting with clients and just like yell, scream, and just, you could see the anger in his face. And I just came back to school really deflated. And it was at that moment where a buddy of mine said, "Hey, DuMont, why don't you just start your own landscape business?" Because I was thinking there's got to be something more than this. So in college at age 21, I started Yardnique. And I started with a simple concept and vision was to treat others like you want to be treated. And I thought I'd grow this thing to 5 employees. And fast forward, we're in our 29th year, and we've surpassed the 5 employees. We're in 7 states across the Southeast, commercial maintenance, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama are the states that we're in. And I just love building teams and really living out what we started out to do is just treat others like you want to be treated.
I know you mentioned 7 states, but number of employees, top line revenue, just to give the listeners an idea of your scale.
About 2,500 employees, top line revenue, about $212 million.
Nice, that's awesome. Congratulations, Brian. A little bit of a difference from your initial vision of 5 employees.
Yeah, my original goal, Robert, was to find somebody way smarter than me and I marry her and I just go off and do my thing with my 5 employees. Yeah.
Is that not all of it?
Everybody's 100%, right? That's all of our goals and dreams. But I wanted somebody to support me financially, because when you think about this industry, I remember Professor Lane said, "Hey, starting salary $17,500. If you're in this for the money, there's the door." Right. And at that moment, I said, "That's $17,500 that I don't have. So let's go."
I talk about Iron Man mindset. I talk about, how people's mind changes. I think a lot of people are guilty of not thinking big enough. And I think that's a detriment to what their future looks like. Talked about some of the really important decision-making that you made, when you, for example, maybe you surpassed your first $1 million, or maybe you thought, "Hey, I've outgrown my state. How can I expand to other states?" So maybe talk through those changes and maybe what were the triggers.
Yeah, no, I love how you reference Iron Man mindset too. That's a whole fascinating book that you've written, and just that mentality as a business owner and an entrepreneur, they're so symbolic. so symbolic of just pushing your mind and body to limits that you probably never thought you could do or achieve. One of the things that I've always tried to do is I keep score of everything. And I try to outperform and outdo the month before, the week before, the year before, and just always trying to push those goals and dreams. And I think the concept was never be afraid to fail. I had a vision of like, I started with a duffel bag at 21 years old and I was okay with that duffel bag. I mean, life was fine. And I said, worst case scenario, I go back to that duffel bag. And this was before the times of YouTube, right? So we couldn't go figure out, hey, let me figure out how to put in that paver patio or let me go put in that irrigation system. No, it was like, let me go get a book from the library, read about it, and let me just figure it out myself. So I was never afraid to just take that leap of faith. And I also always wanted to build a team around me that was smarter than me, better than me. And I showed people numbers from an early onset. Like when we were doing $3 million a year, I would show our monthly financials with my team. I wanted them to all feel like they were part of a culture and a team that was winning together. So I was never afraid to do that, never afraid to take risks.
I mean, there's so many people out there that still hide their financials. I think they're doing themselves a disfavor because, I think a lot of voters think, well, they'll see how much money I'm putting in my pocket. But I think if you're setting some of those goals, you're setting that vision, that can make a big impact on your team. Maybe they're jumping on that train and where that vision is going.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah, you're always going to run the risk of employees potentially leaving to start their own business. And if they think the grass is greener, then go for it, right? And go for the journey that what it takes to start a business from, the sleepless nights to figuring out how you're going to make payroll sometimes when you're pushing all the money in. You said, all right, here we go. Let's hopefully get some checks in today. I think the risk of not showing your numbers is far greater than trying to hide them yourself, because teaching these folks how to read a P&L and understand the value of money. Yeah, there's always going to be somebody or a naysayer out there saying, hey, I could do this myself, or why are they making all the money? Yeah, I know they own the business, but I would challenge that business owner to say, be relatable. Make sure you're relatable to the company and to the team, and don't be afraid to show numbers, and make sure you're also spreading some of your wealth or some of your success with the others on your team, right? Showing them a path forward of what a future could be like in your organization versus, I think the worst thing we could do is just hide it all ourselves. And then they're going to probably create their own ideas and thoughts about how much money you're making anyway, which is probably not true.
That's so true. I talk about the term people create their own noise or their own dialogue if you don't communicate enough with them. So I think you're 100% spot on there. Now, one of the things you just mentioned there is that, or you hinted at, was changing or impacting other people's lives. Talk me through that. I mean, are you talking about, at a field level? Are you talking about middle management, senior management? I mean, what are some of the things you've seen where you can really make a huge difference in somebody's life?
Yeah, I mean, when you really think about the lives that we impact over all the years, from the employees that come to work for the company to their significant others, the kids that they raise back at home. I mean, it's thousands of people that have come and gone across the company, and just sometimes being that role model for them. A simple thing about picking up the phone or sending a text message to somebody and wishing them happy birthday, or thanking them for all the time that they've made a difference in your organization, whether it's a 6-year anniversary, 7-year anniversary. Those little things, those people may not have those people at home. That little impact, whether you're a father figure, whether you're considered a colleague that they've never had. I think those impacts, and a lot of people just need people to be part of a mission to understand that they're creating value, and maybe they're not creating value at home. Some of the stories that I love are our original 5 or 10 employees that are still at Yard Meat, and not only are they still there, I watched their kids get born and they're working at Yard Meat now in a different role. Maybe they're in the office, or they're on a crew, or they're now an account manager. Just seeing that impact in a family's life, for me, my faith is really important to me, and just being able to share that and be bold about that. And when people look at you in a magnitude of, wow, the success, how did you do that, right? Being able to share your story about your faith journey, and sometimes the ups and the downs and the all arounds of what it took to get there. maybe it's just that little inspiration that you could be for someone, and it can pass on to generations within their family.
That's actually one of the things I talk about in the book is, if I could just impact the life or inspire 2-3 people through that, reading that book, I mean, I just feel so much satisfaction from doing that. One of the things you talk about or showing other people is just the scaling of your business. And I think over time, you initially talked about, 5 employees, and then that probably got up to, you're obviously clearly a numbers guy, but, maybe that got up to a couple hundred employees locally. But then you thought, oh, how can I then expand to a different state or multiple states? Talk me through that thought process on, how do you plan for that? How do you try and 10x your company or think bigger than what I've thought in the first 10 years of business?
My dad always taught me, if you're not busy growing, you're busy dying. And I think complacency is something that is alive and well in our world. When I first started, I said, I'm going to start at 21 years old. I'm going to retire by age 40. I'm going to outwork every single person I know. And that was my mission, right? That was a simple goal. And I got to 40 and I'm like, man, I love this. I'm not ready to go yet. So I went so hard for all those years and realized, man, I've got this growing business. And I said something one time to someone. I said, I've been growing this business since day one, since I was 21 years old to sell it. Like, what do you mean? Why would you think that you're going to sell a landscape company at 21? I said I didn't. But I said every year I built this business, I made it to the point where if I had the ability to sell it, I was ready. And what that means, I built out teams, I built out systems, I built out processes. We were lean and mean, and we had the ability to continue to scale. So when you build the business, and so many people sometimes wait 15, 25 years, and all of a sudden they wake up one day and say, okay, it's time to go. And they have to change the whole organization. Maybe the people, like right people, wrong seat, or wrong person, right seat. And they have to reorganize, and it takes them a while to get everything just, ready for sale, prep for sale. And I've been trying to build this business from day one to say, hey, if I produce this every single year and we don't sell it, what do we have? We have a well-oiled machine. So that was the concept and the drive, was just to continue to improve, and really just create opportunities for others, because I felt like if I didn't do that, they were going to go somewhere else. So I really could never be stagnant. There was a lot of times where that 12 to 13 to $15 million revenue was such a sweet spot. It was such a great time where you're at that point where you're not quite 20 yet. So you don't need to scale with people and locations and multiple branches. But I knew if we didn't do that, and I was in my 30s at that time, if we didn't do that, I felt like there was going to be a lot of great talent that would have left Yardmeek. And they're here today, because of the opportunities that we've provided them. A lot of the scaling and growth was really about just impacting lives and really creating careers for others in our industry.
Let's take a minute to thank our sponsors. Urcher is a life brand born from grit, founded by Zach Strausser. The mission is clear: to raise $1 million for the trades by supporting vocational training across North America. Urcher makes tough, smart gear built for landscaping and snow professionals who work hard outside every day in all conditions. Their apparel puts safety first, helps crews look sharp, and honors the pride in their craft. Every purchase has purpose, fueling training programs and building a resilient workforce. Urcher isn't just workwear, it's a culture of respect, resilience, and results. When you contact Urcher, mention Wilson 360, and Zach and his team will take well care of you. You unpacked so many nuggets there, Brian. I want to just emphasize them, because I hope people are really listening to this, and I'm going to try and highlight it. But I have conversations with, I would say, at least 2 or 3 people a week, and they'll say to me, oh, I'm stuck at 3 million, or I'm stuck at 5 million. I've been stuck here for the last 3 years. And I find, after digging a little bit further, is usually around leadership or the owners. Now, you have to move into that uncomfortable place, put yourself out there, and you have to start looking at who are the people I want to surround myself with, what are the processes, procedures I need to introduce to really bring that stability. And once you have that, then it gives you that ability to scale your company. But you have to go through that process, and either you're going to think it yourself, or maybe it's some type of an outside resource or some type of light bulb moment that comes on, whether it be your dad or some other, whatever, consultant, or maybe a speaker you listen to.
I think the key is when you surround yourself with professionals, those that are really good at what they do, and then give them the keys to the kingdom. Let them do what they do well, but never losing the mindset. And I'm really proud of this, owned and operated by landscapers. That is what we have to be. That's what we have to stay true to. But sure, do we have folks from outside the industry and finance and in HR? Yeah, we do. On the M&A side of things, yeah, we have what I think is best in class there. I can teach them landscape, and one of the things in our organization is that we've got to make sure that we're proud to be owned and operated by landscapers, and we don't lose where we came from back in 1997. But we also know that having those professionals that do what they do really well is crucial to the success of our business moving forward.
I love that. And I love that term you use, owned and operated by landscapers. How do you use that with, obviously you're out there right now, you're probably trying to find other companies maybe to partner up with. I mean, is that a phrase you use, or do you use it in another marketing efforts? How do you?
I actually got that slogan from a company we partnered with, Joe Cellini, ASI, great guy, great company in Tampa, Florida. I asked Joe because he was courted by a lot of people, and Joe actually came up with that phrase. He said, DuMont, owned and operated by landscapers, that's what really connected me with you. And there's a lot of options out there, right? When you think about the M&A world in our industry, how much that's changed over the last couple of years. But one of the things that we feel like that we're really proud of is we're surrounding ourselves with top tier professionals in the industry. Don't want to lose that. Yeah, there might be some equity-backed businesses that are in the industry. We are one of them, having private equity backed by us. And I'm proud of that, but making sure that we're calling the shots is very crucial.
How do people, there's obviously so many different buyers out there. How do you sort of get some clarity around that fog of so many people trying to clamber and buy you and differentiate themselves from other buyers out there?
We've been in the trenches with them, starting a business from ground zero, being relatable, can understand what owners go through. I think that is so crucial. And just, a lot of the deals, over 50% of the deals that we've done over the last 5 years, they're coming to us. And that's to me, it's, I appreciate the process, and there's a lot of companies that are in the market or on market that we get notified on, and we will definitely be one to entertain the opportunity. We love that, and we're thankful for that. But really, the true success is when we have folks come up to us because they hear what we're doing in the industry. So that way, we really connect with culture. To me, numbers are great, right? Top line, revenue mix, EBITDA dollars, those all have to be there. But really, it's about the culture. And when somebody says, wait, is that Core Yardnique? And what about those employees? Those are Core Yardnique employees as well. And it's like, no, they came from an acquisition a year ago. Like, wow, I thought they'd been with you for 10 plus years. That's when you've selected the right group. So for me, we really look at companies with the right values, leadership teams. And finding that is really, really crucial.
What are some of the key things you do in that first, 90 days, really just to sort of try and nail that merging of cultures? I suppose post-close, because obviously generally it's kept quiet from the employees, but...
Yes. Yeah. So I would say we have to earn the right and respect. That's what I tell my team. Like, less is more. Yeah, we're integrating companies, but we partner with companies not to go create everything they've built for 25, 30 years, but really focus on earning the right and respect. And when that happens, there's like a light bulb that goes off, and the companies are like, man, I want to be a part of this, not driving it down their throat, right? So we're not coming in and like stripping identities and brands and telling everybody this is how we're going to do it. Forget about what you've done all these years. We really want to just tell them that we're there to support them. They're part of now the Yardnique family, and that we're going to do everything we can to earn the right and respect. Are we going to stumble along the way? Absolutely. We're not going to sit here and pretend that we're professionals at it. We know what we've done. We have experience doing it, but we've made mistakes, and we're trying to learn every single day. So we're in this journey together, and our goal is to create opportunities and to grow together. And that's why we're partnering together. And a lot of times it's the owner says they want to stay on. Right. We have several instances where owners said, hey, I'm in for a year. And then 4 years later, they're still there. I love those stories. That's like, man, we're doing something right. Yeah.
And I was going to say, that's a big key right there.
Yeah. So for me, less is more and really earn the respect for those first 90 days.
Yeah, because there's often that fear with employees. What's this company going to do? Are they going to cut stuff back? How things going to change? So there's a lot of fear with employees. So trying to just earn that respect. I love that term. Couple of final questions here for you, Brian. What do you feel like the industry looks like in 3 to 5 years? There is obviously a lot of M&A activity, and that's changing things up.
It's a different industry. I think there's a lot of positives too. Everybody looks at Brightview as the top dog, and I think you're going to see in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to not just have Brightview as the only publicly traded company. You're going to continue to see consolidation. I think you're going to see some big moves in our industry as well, where you're going to see two monster players combining together to take a run at it. I think you're going to continue to see the regional consolidation. I think we have a lot of that today, but maybe even some super regionals really combining forces. I think there'll always be the mom and pop, the startups. Those will always be the American dream. You'll always have those. But I think that gap from that 10 to 20, that 10 to 25, those sweet spots of companies, those will be far and few between. I think that they're going to be consolidated and you're going to have some monster players, because when you look at our industry, there's such a discrepancy of size and scale and total revenues. And I think you're going to see a lot more consolidation on a higher level as these PE groups now are going to go from that first bite, that first turn to the second and third. They're going to be forced to continue to grow.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot less of those 10 to 25 million privately owned companies around. They're obviously being gobbled up quickly. Going back to a thing you said right at the beginning, when you were striving to be that 5-person company, what would be the biggest piece of advice for those up-and-coming companies? When you look at your history and what you've gone through, and obviously there's a lot more, I suppose, knowledge out there, YouTube, the podcast, whatever. What would you be your biggest piece of advice for those up-and-coming companies?
Write down your goals and dreams. It's only a dream until you write it down, then it becomes a goal. So write it down and strive for it every single day. Meet folks like you. Learn from industry leaders your story of how you told me what you're doing today, your background, your Ironman mindset. Entrepreneurs that are just getting started need to have that Ironman mindset. Take advantage of what this industry has. There's so much knowledge. There is a tremendous amount of respect for other leaders in the industry, and we're all willing to share. We don't feel like we're competition. Yeah, we're competition. I may talk to some other CEOs in the same markets we're in. We're all in this, but we're all cheering each other on. And I think you'd be amazed by just taking the time to pick up the phone and call some of our leaders in the industry. They're willing to share their best practices and partner up with folks like yourself and your organization to really learn from folks that have been there. But I really think to really achieve success, you got to put your head down and you just got to outwork your competition.
Yeah, great advice there. Brian, what does the future look like for Yardenique? Is it domination over the national footprint? Is it doubling growth the next few years? What does it look like?
I'm really proud of what we've been able to intentionally achieve, and that is Southeast footprint, 93% maintenance enhancement revenue. We're going to continue to build that out. I think that there's still continuous opportunities in that Southeast market in the corridor, and maybe even the footprints surrounding, taking this concept to the Mid-Atlantic, maybe even moving into other states that are surrounding Tennessee, Alabama, Texas, possibly, then moving into Virginia, and just continuing to create opportunities and having the mindset of owned and operated by landscapers. I think the industry is ripe for change. And what I mean by that is just continuing to focus on our people. There's a lot of PE money in this industry right now. And I think there's a lot of positives with that. There's a lot of opportunity for growth for so many people, for so many companies, but just making sure that our focus is to make sure that we continue to not forget about our people, right? And how can we grow to the size and scale where we want to go with having that mindset there? That's our goal and vision for the next 5 years.
If people want to get in touch with you just to, discuss options out there, and they're looking for some type of an exit, what would be the best way for them to be able to reach out to you?
Probably via LinkedIn would probably be the best way. I'm not a big social media guy. I try to keep my head above water every single day, and that's the last thing I need to do. But I think you and I connected via LinkedIn. That's how we really kind of reconnected there about today. So LinkedIn is probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Awesome, Brian. I know you're Super busy guy, but really appreciate your time today, sharing your vision, talking about your journey over the years. Very inspiring for others. So people should be listening. And there's so many nuggets on this episode that it really is something that people need to listen to several times. So thank you for your time today, Brian.
Thank you, Robert. Best of luck to you, and keep doing what you're doing. I'm here to help any which way I can. So thanks for the time today.
Appreciate that. Cool. Thank you, Brian. Cheers.
All right, cheers.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I hope you're walking away with some great nuggets that you can immediately apply to your business, whether you're in leadership, operations, or you just want to show up every day with that Ironman mindset. Remember, growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens with intentional moves, bold conversations, and surround yourself with the right people. If you found value today, subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with others. And again, don't forget to check out wilson-360.com. We have digital courses from account management, operational excellence, leadership development, or some of the other coaching packages we offer. Anyway, huge shout out to our sponsors. Thank you very much. And I'll leave with this. Have a pure, dead, brilliant day.